my phone? There it is. 3, 2, 1, and we are live. Hi, I'm Chris Trammell. I'm the creator, developer, and head coach of the Author Launchpad, and you have been part of the 5-day series, plus today the bonus sessions of how to market and monetize your nonfiction book and expertise in 90 days. And it has been a pleasure to be able to be with you over these past 90 days to help, not past 90 days, over these past 5 days to help you transform what it's going to be like for you as you head into this new year. On Monday, we talked about what is the opportunity for that nonfiction expert. So who do I work best with? Nonfiction authors that are working in professional development, self-development. You have a process, you have an idea, you have an experience and expertise, and you want to take that out to the world. Those are the types of individuals I work with. That's why I created this program, to be able to help you take that thought leadership out of your book. Take that journey, take that story, and move it from the ahas into the world of action so that we could cause results in the lives of others. That's one of the biggest things I see. Now, why me? Before we dive into that, one of the things that I always recommend you do is you got to check to make sure you are live wherever you said you wanted to be live. So I'm going to go right now to LinkedIn. I'm checking my notifications and it says, Chris, you are live. So there's one. I'm live. Perfect. You want to check your tech. When we have our guests come on in just a few moments, we were doing our tech check there. The tech gremlins are always going to do what the tech gremlins are going to do. Your job is to gracefully, casually remember, check your tech. Okay, so now the other location that I stream into is on Facebook, where I'm inviting you, if you are a nonfiction author and you are about to publish, or you've already published and you're wondering what's next, maybe your sales have slowed down with your book and you realize this isn't it, I wanted more. Well, I created a private Facebook community called the Author Launchpad. And so I'm going there right now. And there it is. So one of the things I'm also going to treat you with is I'm going to copy this link, and I'm also going to post it in one of my other groups so that you could have maximum exposure and share it everywhere that you want to be able to share your group. And here we go. I'm putting this one in right now. Post. Because in the world of marketing, in the world of engaging with your audience, if you can maximize that opportunity, do it, right? And it is okay. One of the biggest things that I want you to get during all of these conversations is there's no such thing as perfection in this domain that we deal with, because people wait, oh, I can't wait till it's perfect. I can't wait till my one sheet is perfect. I can't do something until my website looks perfect. No, those are all the things that get in the way of your performance. This idea of perfection gets in the way of performance. Performance is where you bring your passion, you bring your promise, and you practice delivering it over and over and over until you build that acumen where you could just show up and you're delivering from your expertise and your engagement is off the charts because you're not trying to get it perfect. You're being authentic. You're being passionate, and you're delivering the promise that you put into that book, into that talk, into that piece of whatever medium in which you're communicating your expertise. People are always, always, always going to choose authenticity, failure, bumping your knees over perfection. Why? Because over here, this little thing doesn't think that it's perfect. And anytime we see perfection out in the world, we don't know how to relate to it because we don't consider ourselves perfect. Now, that's deep work, but it's an important piece of this work because oftentimes people think they didn't buy my stuff, they didn't like my stuff. sometimes when you show up, you are not showing up in your fullness. You're not showing up in your greatness. You aren't viable. Your work is great, but maybe you are the gap because you haven't owned your expertise. In today's conversation that I am so lucky that I get to have when I'm going to introduce you to who we have next is really about what is it going to take that influence that you are, that thought leader that you are, the difference maker that you are, and bring it out to the world. And that's exactly who Krystall Hille is, of Hille House Publishing. And she knows I love saying Hille House Publishing because I'm a big fan of Louise Hay, and I followed Hay House Publishing. So how perfect is that when your name almost mimics one of the best publishing houses to be a part of? So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Krystall Hille. And whether you're watching this live, you're watching in replay, I want you to know it is 6 a.m. in Australia. And she said yes to be here with me at noontime Saturday in Long Beach. That's how committed she is to continuing to bring her work out to the world. So let's go ahead and bring on Krystall Hille of Hille House Publishing. Good morning, Krystall, and thank you so much for being here today.
Good morning to you from Australia. It is such a pleasure to be here. And oh my God, have you set the stage really powerfully around mindset and how we can really claim our expert status? That's something I'm extremely passionate about. So thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. And, you know, as I shared that, two things. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to go spend a day with Brendon Burchard. Brendon Burchard, one of the leading high performance coaches. I've been able to work and train under Tony Robbins. I've done years of work with Landmark Education, the Ironman, being a track and field coach. And I still know, Krystall, that if this isn't set right and the alignment between I'm touching my heart and my head doesn't connect, it doesn't matter what we bring to the world, because it will occur as hollow, it will occur as incomplete. And the more I read your website, the more I read about you and your commitment to others, I could see that's the work that you do to integrate those two things. So I know I just threw us into the deep end. So let's go to the deep end for a second, and then I'll work us back to the beginning where it should be. But why does that mindset? Because you're not just publisher, you're coach. You make it very clear. I'm going to help you find that congruence and alignment. Why that matters to you, Krystall?
Wow, yeah, we are going to the deep end, aren't we? It's great. And I lead with vision. And I think when we're leading with purpose, when we're leading with vision, then we become a magnet because it attracts and repels people. They either identify and relate to why we do what we do, or they don't. You know, for me, when I was a teenager, I've known I'm here to help people. I thought it was through psychology. And through my own journey and this fascination about why do people do what they do? What makes humans tick? It's been like a lifelong fascination that started when I was at school, literature, looking at literature and the characters and having to answer all these deep questions about characters' motivations. And I just loved that. And I translated that into life as well. Like, why do we do what we do? So initially I started becoming a theater director and explored those human, emotions and motivations. I explored that on stage. And then because I wasn't ready to help anybody in my 20s, you don't have the life experience. That came later in my 30s when I finally had a career change, different things happened. And actually through the process of writing, I wrote myself into clarity using Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, which you might have heard of. It's beautiful to really connect and align head and heart and come into full alignment with who we are and step into deeper self-love. And that gave me the clarity. And then life coaching showed up, and it wasn't around like it is today. That was in 2008 when I did my NLP training and life coaching. And that's when I finally thought, okay, now I've landed somewhere. Now I can help people. And then again, through synchronicities and the way life works, in 2020 I was in 2 multi-author books, really wanting to bring my message out there, and it helped me so much to, as you mentioned earlier, to really embody my message, to claim my expert status.
Mm-hmm.
That and I loved the collaboration. Suddenly there was no competition. Everybody was on the same boat. Everybody was really cheering each other on, and it was such an amazing experience. And the friendships that came from that, and the clarity around my messaging, that when the opportunity came to do this myself and be trained as a publisher, my whole body got these, what I call truth tingles, And I
Yes.
was actually surprised, because I thought that I'm here to help people on the mindset level, to help them overcome their insignificance and really claim their significance and claim their expert status. But no, it was through publishing, and it really encaptured everything that I was passionate about now into into doing what I'm doing now. And I think I always ask people about their from to story, that what is your origin story? What's really behind why you do what you do? And for me, I put it down to from disempowerment to empowerment. And there's two actually, and there's a sub one, from insignificance to significance, not from an ego perspective, but from a deeper, sense of, I'm claiming why I'm here. I'm really fully embodying my potential and my purpose. So it's been that journey that I link back to an event that happened in my childhood at the age of 4, when I had 2nd-degree burns, I was in hospital naked.
Oh
And,
gosh.
it's like one of those tragic moments in life that one way or another we all have them, no matter how good our parents are parenting us, and even we make things mean sometimes, even if there's the
We
external
do.
story doesn't reflect that. So we all have some kind of origin trauma. And when we identify that, Dr. John Demartini talks about our voids create our values. So that's what I base that on. The void that was created in my life was a lack of safety and a lack of trust. So that disempowered me. And so my whole life's journey was to come back into a sense of feeling empowered. And that's what I then became passionate helping other people. And publishing is how I do that now.
Okay, so if I'm not looking at the camera, I'm taking notes on all the brilliance that you just said. And sometimes I don't mean to, but when I resonate with someone really well, Krystall, I don't mind going to the deep end, because it kicks off a very powerful conversation. And if we're going to be a contribution to those that are going to watch it now or watch it later or find us in this repurposing, they're looking for not just the how-tos, but they want to know, do these people see me? Can they see my journey? Are they going to help me understand who I've been so I could tell it the best way possible out in the world? And you did that beautifully right now. So now I'm going to speak some of the things back to you and ask them about them. NLP coaching, which is fantastic, because people forget, or they just don't know, that part of how Tony Robbins started was his early times with Jim Rohn, and he was a student practitioner of NLP, and he worked on trauma. And he noticed, as I keep working with these people with trauma, people are everywhere I go. Maybe I could go start coaching businesses. Maybe I could start coaching athletes. The NLP, neuro-linguistic programming work, is what led him to expand and grow. So as you did that in 2008, what were some of the, I know it's maybe a challenge to pull yourself back to 2008, but you talked about the difference that was making. What was the popcorn moment starting to go off as you got this new tool for being able to access people and transform lives?
One thing I noticed, because we always start with self, is that I felt I was given a key that could finally unlock a door into my unconscious, into all of understanding my trauma, and giving me a key and tools to overcome them and really step into that zone of, this circle of excellence. That was one of the tools that I remember, stepping into your circle of excellence and really stacking all of the feelings that you want to feel. And it just really fulfilled me when I saw firstly my own transformation through, when we're training, we're also being coached. Firstly seeing my own transformation, how fast it was, and then seeing that transformation in my clients to really feel that deeper sense of self and empowerment.
Really great. And as you talked about the stacking of feelings, let's take that. We're going to deviate for a second. How have you noticed, how do you work with your authors? Because sometimes our feelings are suspect. They don't move us forward. They get us to become rigid and afraid, and we stop moving forward. But then there's other times, like what Tony would say, is those feelings are energizing and they move us through and they cause breakthroughs. How do you guide your clients and these authors through those space of feelings?
So firstly, when clients come to me, they often feel overwhelmed because they don't know which one of the many thoughts that they have, which one to actually focus on. So it's more of a mental exercise at that stage to tell them to normalize where they're at, and to then, through some very specific questions, guide them onto a journey from confusion into clarity, where they understand what their core value and their core mission is. And yes, I stack the feelings just before launch, actually. When we're coming to that place where we've worked on our message, we know what it is. We might be sharing some deep secrets that we've never shared before publicly. That's when I then take them through a journey, imagining that they are on a stage and stacking those feelings like everybody's in the audience. Wow. And what does it feel like to share your message? And are there some people that you feel scared of sharing this with? And then we look at that and we trace it back. And then I'll do some inner child work at that point with them. And then once the inner child is on board and we're with our inner child in hand or in arm, on hip, looking at the audience, and then stacking these positive feelings, focusing on the people that are really championing us on, that are looking for our success. That's definitely an exercise that I take my clients through. So because I'm aware of the potential of vulnerability hangover.
Yes.
And so I want to make sure that no one is sabotaging their own success because on some level they haven't claimed or owned that next level of visibility or that next level of authority.
Really fantastic. And for anybody else that just heard that, I would have to say you spoke to something no one else of all my publishers have talked about. And you also mentioned why, yes, you could self-publish, and there's value in going to an independent publisher like Krystall Hille, because in your self-publishing, you might not do that work that Krystall just described that's going to be the catalyst that gets you over the hump, because they're not just buying the content of your book, they're buying you. And if you don't show up in that fullness because you haven't done some of the deeper work or just enough of the work that you don't show, well, I like my book, and you're a little sheepish when you're on camera, but you're not owning that expertise. And Krystall, I really hear how that exercise allows them to own their expertise.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. The Joe DiMartini, our voids create our value. Very similar to what I've repeated when I've heard is we teach what we needed to learn, and we teach what we needed to learn, and we teach what we've needed to heal. And so who we are for others is oftentimes just the person 5, 7, 10 years down the road from who they are now.
Exactly. And by healing, by working with others on their empowerment, I always get to the next level of mine. And I'm sure all the coaches out there listening to this, and yes, exactly. And we get the clients that are reflecting back to us certain themes that we are ready to release or take to the next level.
Yeah. Krystall, everything that you say it. I think I might say it, but it sounds so much better the way you say it. There's just an elegance and eloquence, the accent. So let's go back. Tell me about this accent that I'm hearing here. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a real conglomeration, a mixture of lots of different things. I think so. The origin is German. So I have grown up in Germany, and I then moved to England after school
Mhm.
for 11 years.
Wow.
I spent about 9 months in the US as well. Did an exchange at Rutgers University in New Jersey. And then I
Okay.
spent a summer in New York being a bohemian 20-year-old, considering whether or not I should become a theater director and make this a profession. And yeah, I had such a fun time that I did. And then I moved to Australia in 2006. So it's a lot of people think it's South African because of the, Afrikaans. They have that
Mhm.
Dutch thing.
Right.
But yeah, so it's a real mix, and I actually find myself adapting. And if I speak to somebody in the UK, it sort of slightly it goes back into that UK accent. Now that I've been here for a while, it sort of sounds more Australian. It's funny how we are and what it does.
It's very disarming. It's very pleasing to the ear. I wish I had that because I'd probably close a few more sales if I had that sort of subtle feminine elegance there.
Oh, I
So
think they're buying you for you, right? That's what we're talking about.
well played. Thank you for that. Okay. Um, I've got 3 questions here, and then we're going to come back to some of the other things you said. One of my questions is superpower. What is Krystall's superpower? When you say, you know what, Chris, this is my superpower when I work with authors and experts that want to take their work to the world.
Hmm. I'm an activator.
Mm.
So whenever I have a conversation with people and a seer, I see people. This is something that you were talking about earlier. I can see people, I can see right into their soul, and I have the ability to also see patterns. So when they're in their jungle of thoughts and I can't see the wood for the trees or the tree for the woods or whatever the expression is, I can see it and I can bring it out and I can ask the questions. And so at the end of a conversation, they are super clear on what they need to write.
Oopsie.
So what's happened?
Oh, I accidentally bumped the wrong part of my screen. Sorry. You were saying they were super clear on what they needed to write. My apologies.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, so they become super clear on what they need to write, and they also make new realizations and often make new connections in their past of, oh my God, I didn't realize that related to this, and how my mum was so important to this aspect of my life. So all of that comes out. And I'll give you a little story that really is something innately within me. When I was in my 20s and I was working in a drama school, directing the final opera performance of their school year, one of the teachers came to me and said, Krystall, you've managed to get them to really embody who they are as people and merge that with the character that they're playing. And I thought that was a really, like at the time, I didn't realize that was actually a really big compliment, but it means that I can take what is there and amplify it. And I've done that all my life.
You're so great. I love that. And thank you for sharing that. I have a client that I'm working with moving forward right now, and he's of the elite of the world of human performance, transformation, and coaching, decades and decades and decades of experience. And, then in my head, there's little old me bringing together my skills and expertise now. And I have been able to do what you're describing with him. And for this client to be able to come back and say, I never saw it like that. I never experienced it
Yes.
that way. I didn't. And I was like, wow. Sometimes we don't know our superpowers. And I thank you for illustrating the journey of how you discovered it through theater, through activator. I want to hear how you activator became activator, and also, the patterns I think probably in theater on stage, you saw patterns, you saw flow. So how did you develop these superpowers?
I think everything, in NLP, they teach us you can chunk everything up to its highest denominator. And I think that's what patterns are. You just chunk them up enough so that you can see the big picture overview.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, it's something that it's just an innate talent that I came with, the ability to see people. I'm a Scorpio, so I have, when people say, when the actualized Scorpio becomes the eagle, so you have that eagle eye, and you can also have the ability to go really deep into the unconscious and add training to that natural ability, then and you've got, it has become an unconscious competence. And the activator part is, like, I had a client, and we were doing, or several clients, they reflected back to me. So we do a session, we clarify the message, and then I had this lady, and she channeled all night. Like, her channels opened and her guides came through, and it was just stream of consciousness, everything was there. And then another client had a similar experience, and she said, after we were talking, I was just writing, and that window of activation stays open for about 48 hours. That's the feedback I get from my clients, because my clients are all highly intuitive. They're the healers of the world. They're the coaches. And so we enter into this field where we can just download stuff. And I'm just holding the space for them to tap into that.
That is so fantastic. As an evolutionary biologist, as a practitioner of science, as someone who wrote the science curriculum and the courses at the Los Angeles Zoo High School for 15 years, I was steeped in science. So much so that I even pushed away my theology of growing up in Catholic school, because I couldn't have dinosaurs in Catholic school. My dad was an atheist, so I moved all those things apart. And there was a time when someone invited me to serve as a hospice volunteer. Pretty much one of my coaches said, look, Chris, you want to stop sweating the small stuff? Go volunteer hospice. You'll change your point of view. And Krystall, the things you're describing right there, the world beyond what we see, beyond the veil, began to impact me. And, to say that people on their way out would stop by and let me know that they had completed their immortal journey, I became clear that there is a world beyond our five senses. We may not be able to measure it with the tools we have now, but it exists. So when you describe that stream of consciousness, it's no less than Carl Jung's The Collective Unconscious that we are all pulling from. So in that space, when you work with your clients there, how does that added knowing, added access elevate their work when working with you?
How does it do that? You described it so well just now, and it is exactly that. They're tapping into something beyond them, and they're becoming a vessel or a vehicle to bring through the messages that need to come through and connect them with their own wisdom and their own story. And I do have exercises that actually help them access that sort of stream of consciousness. How it manifests is that they look back at what they've written, and this happens all the time, and they're saying, wow, I can't believe I wrote this. There's like, wow, did I really write this? That's what happens all the time.
I don't know the guy that wrote a lot of this. And this is my advanced reader copy, and I got to send a copy to Australia to get some feedback from this wonderful woman that I know has her own publishing house. And I've gone back to read it. I'm like, I wrote that? And I was just like, it's when they say the maybe it's not just the ego, but the we are of our circumstances gets out of the way to allow the higher purpose self to step in and do the work that we are assigned to do in this journey. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're deep
and
water.
I love that When we get out of the way, that's when it can come through. And so that's what I do. I help clients to get out of their own way by giving them the tools and the processes and the principles to do that.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about, now I'm going to move you back into the expertise of your professional work. I knew at some point I was going to write a book, but this is what happened. I didn't have to write my science textbooks. I didn't have to write the immunology book, the genetics book, the anthropology book, the advanced placement biology. I just had to be able to read this dense material and break it down into courses and curriculums that would allow me to ascend students and build the muscles of their expertise in that field of science. So when I started working with authors, they would ask me, have you written a book? I'd be like, no. And there was almost an arrogance about it. I was like, no, I didn't need to write my science books to be able to be a great teacher of science. But I saw this, Krystall. I didn't know the gestation and birthing process, which you're a mom, and you know that has so much to do with the book, not just the ink on the pages. So can you talk about the birthing and gestation process, the actual work that you do before ink hits the final page and out it goes?
Absolutely. It's so important to have a gestation period. And in a way, it translates into, well, at first, I think I'll give you an example. I'm about to write another book. So currently,
your own,
I know
or
it. Yeah, my own.
okay.
So I have written books before unrelated to publishing, but I am ready to write a book around the author archetypes that I have downloaded. Speak. I know what I'm going to write about, but I haven't sat down to plan. Are we okay on sound?
Yeah, it was just for just a moment.
Okay, good.
It froze, but it gave me a good pause to say, as she talks about the author archetypes, here's the link where you could find the author archetype for Krystall. So please go on with the book you're going to talk about as we talk about the gestation and the process.
Yes. Yes, so right now with that book, I'm in gestation. It's like the pre-planning phase, it feels. So we've got it's all just kind of there. I'm with it. I'm being with it. I'm feeling into the ideas and what might be. And then the planning phase is the first of the three stages of the book development, which is where you're asking questions around who is this for? What problem does this book solve? What solutions am I providing? What is the transformation I'm taking my reader through? And then once these core ideas is there, and what's unique about my approach and my book, and once you've got all of that, these basic questions answered, then it goes into the more detailed planning as to what goes into each chapter to really take the reader onto this powerful transformational journey. So that in a way really is the gestation. And once we've got that, then we can go into the stream of consciousness writing, because we're giving our higher guidance, we're giving it a roadmap or a framework within which to channel and download and the free-flowing stream of consciousness writing. And if we don't do the planning, I think that's when the overwhelm hits, because it's like we're an architect that sends builders onto a building site saying, I'll just put up some walls here. I think we're going to put the other one there. And then they're trying to put the roof on top of it and nothing fits. So yeah, that's why the planning phase is so important. You know, architects draw designs and take a lot of great care to do that.
Yes. Have you ever done the Clifton Strengths assessment?
If I have, not for ages, or I didn't know that it was called that.
Okay. That's all right. What about your Myers-Briggs? Have you done the 16 personalities?
DISC. I haven't done Myers-Briggs. I've done DISC, which is not as comprehensive, I understand.
And why I ask is it's one of the things I have my clients do, because I also need to look at some people call it the shadows, and I shouldn't diminish it that way. The unseen, right? The things we don't see, that the gremlins in the background of our thinking. And I'm able to kind of extract and look for, okay, when are you going to get a little squirrely, and I'm going to have to go get you. I'm going to have to go rescue you or pull you back from something. As you spoke right now, you spoke with such a clarity about going through the process. Who's this for? What's my unique message? And then the structure and planning. But I can't imagine that you didn't get there without a lot of iteration to finally get to Krystall Hille's process, and a trusted process that produces what people are trying to bring to the world. So I was trying to hear, okay, what's the thinking behind Krystall Hille that has created this process, which is reliable and produces what people want to bring to the world? So how long did it take you to create this trusted process that you use?
Look, I mean, I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I think it just fine tunes and it fine tunes and it fine tunes as I work with authors and as I see what, as you said, all the shadows, all the things that they're going into, what not to do, I can fine tune the structure and the process. So it's been, yeah, I would say it started in the beginning. And of course, I've done a lot of reading and studying and seeing what processes are out there, and then bringing my own level of transformation to it, because that's what I'm all about, to create the transformation, to tap into our highest potential.
All right. You did it again. You hit another keyword. So let's talk about transformation. I've got our activate. I know we're going to talk about activate as well. I find that sometimes two words are used too casually right now. And I tend to call myself very relaxed, but I notice that I have my positions about things. One is where the word transformation is used too loosely, and the other one is where people say thought leadership. So inside of the transformation that you get to work with people, I see that transformation isn't just providing a solution. But as I hear what you do, it really is the transformation of taking them through the journey of who they are, altering their knowing of themselves to birth something new at the end of the book and something new at the end of the process with them. How do you cause that transformation? Because that's not an easy thing to do.
I would have to say it's become an unconscious competence again as well. So I have to go back and look at the structure behind what we do. And I think it's a combination of holding them in their highest light, asking questions. And, to be honest, the work does a lot of the things itself. I don't know, when you were writing your book, just by the sheer process of applying yourself to your journey and to your wisdom and reflecting on that, something shifts. We go deeper, we make those connections. So I think often it is also the act of writing itself that creates the realizations, and it is an elevation of consciousness, because the more we process, the more we realize, the greater our level of clarity, and therefore our level of consciousness. And then bringing that into the book will then activate something in the readers, to seeing their own story in a new light. Because when we write our story, like if I read your story, I actually read my own story. You're reflecting my story back to me in your writing. So whenever we're writing this, and this is the shift I get my authors to make. I think that's the biggest shift, from saying me, and I'm writing my book and I'm writing my story, to how does it serve the reader?
Yeah.
Now let's take all of what you have and let's make a teaching point from it. Let's use your life as the example, not as the thing itself.
Can I step in right there for just a second?
Yes.
You gave me a red carpet moment. that is where I saw the gap in the market, Krystall, is when the author had actually done that well. And it was for the reader, it was intended for the reader. But then the reader was left with these ahas without an action plan, without a blueprint, without a roadmap, without a course, without a signature program to where the reader could move from reader to consumer and say, can I work with you? I want to know how to do that thing that you said in my life. I understood what you put on paper, but I don't know how to do it. And that's where I said, authors, if you want to beat the bots and you want to keep going beyond book sales and really know what difference making is, cause it in the lives of others. Don't leave them at the aha intersection. Take them into the action highway and produce the results of their goals and their dreams and their journey. And how you illustrated that right now is, how does it serve the reader? And then you could reach out to me and say, okay, Chris, they're ready. Because it's the and then what we do with it, I think, is what leaves that legacy, what leaves that lasting leadership of work to world.
Yes, exactly. And then when they come and do a course, create their course from the book with you, it really makes so much more impact, right? I love, work to world. That's a beautiful way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you said it. I'm, like you said, I'm just reflecting you right now. So this is great. So for those of you watching too, as you know, there's a workbook that I have created. And so this is all part of Krystall's sheet. So go to where you see Krystall's gorgeous blue-green eyes and her smile and put the ahas that you're getting on this worksheet so you could take it from the ahas to the actions that are going to make a difference for you, and write down the links. If you haven't clicked on them either, you'll find the links below. Wherever I repurpose this and share this, you're going to have the links to be able to communicate with Krystall or myself. But really, it's after talking to so many different publishers, Krystall is subtly putting in all of the main pillars and foundational points of what makes an extraordinary book. She's just not saying write it down, because we're so used to our educational model of write it down. You have to be responsible for hearing the aha and then putting the action to it. So Krystall, thank you for the subtlety of giving some really important foundations right now. In your book, since you're talking about your book, I want to flip it for just a second. Have you been able to distill down yet, like, the core message of this next book that you're putting out there? Is it early right now to ask that question? Or
It's
maybe
a
there's
little bit early. So I haven't gotten my one sentence of the transformation that it's providing. It is utilizing and tapping into qualities that we all have within us. My author archetypes are created around the 4 elements. And so we all have one or two dominant ones, and some of them that are not so developed. And in order to be a compelling author, we have to have harmony between all 4 of them. And so I'm helping, this book is going to help people to firstly understand what they are, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and how they can then activate each one of them to become a wholesome author.
Oh, wow. A wholesome author.
Yes, I guess I just made that up. Yeah.
Tell me more. What does a wholesome author look like? Like, when I write the word holistic, I add the W in front of it, because we are whole, complete, and perfect as we're assigned in this journey. So what's wholesome author to you?
To me, it means that they can captivate a reader on all aspects of their being. And they have embodied these aspects and actualized these aspects within themselves. So the earth element is all about the structure. It's all about the foundations that we've talked about. It's all about that planning phase. It's all about saying things as they are, grounded statements. Then the element of air, the airy wizard, is all about the ideas and the concepts and the teachings and really being able to share the teachings. But you can't just make a teaching point, because you also actually have to demonstrate them. You know, Tony, Les Brown says, don't ever tell a story without a point, and don't ever make a point without teaching a story or sharing an example. So therefore, we need the fire. We need the fiery charismatic who brings in the storytelling, who is that person that sits at the campfire and kind of everybody flies towards them and they want to hear the stories. But if you just have the fiery charismatic, you leave people overwhelmed. They kind of get sucked in. But then once the story is finished, they're like, oh my God, that was a lot. I don't know what to do with all of this now. It was amazing, but they're overwhelmed. So that's when we need the air element to come in. But if we're just staying in those three, we're leaving out a very important water element, which is kind of that place where we tap into our emotions, where we almost slow down a bit, where we ask the deeper questions, because the air element is asking questions and it connects us to our emotions and creates that connection to the reader. So we're engaging the reader on all levels. So that's what I mean by being a wholesome author, is by understanding these principles and consciously utilizing them in the writing.
All right. When I took your assessment, I went to click on it while you were speaking. I came back as watery, mystic, and the wizard. It said, this is my leading one, and this is my pair as well that shows up. And I tend, if I hear wizard correctly, have you taken the brand archetype quiz, kind of more Jungian? Hero, everyman, rebel. Have you done one of those for yourself?
I have done one of those for myself a long time ago.
Okay.
I don't remember my dominant archetypes.
Oh, I'm loving this. I love when I could contribute back to an expert. I love it.
Thank you.
Because
yes.
I'm hearing, when I heard what you said, it's like those pieces where they just land into place and go sunk. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm that piece and this piece. No wonder I tend to show up as a magician in the brand archetype quiz and hero. And I often meet people who are those fiery storytellers. And those are the ones that leave people inspired, but they don't know what I say in the world of athletics. They were the naturals. They were the ones who could just show up and do it and be great. And they're gregarious and they're magnetic. But if you ask them to teach it, they don't know, because it was natural to them. They're the worst teachers, but they're the best performers at times.
Yes. I did the brand quiz as well, and I'm the magician too.
So
it doesn't surprise me that you're one as well.
Oh, Krystall, I'm loving this. Okay. I have, let's see, how are we doing on time here? We're at 48 minutes. So people are starting to say we're going to be landing this plane shortly.
Do you want to put the quiz link on there again so people can take the quiz as well, now that I've explained what that is? So yeah, do take the quiz, only 3 minutes, and you can figure out which one you are, and you get some writing tips of how you can become more wholesome with them.
Yes. Please go ahead, click on this, the author archetype quiz. And then when you're ready to unpack how you could use these as guideposts for your process, get connected with Krystall. Don't go into the forest without somebody who's already navigated the forest. That's why Krystall is here to help you with it. So please use that. I'm going to try something. Let's see if I could do this correctly. I want to just highlight you, solo layout. There we go. Great. You can still hear me, right? Okay.
I can hear you. Yes, yes, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, when I met Krystall, we were on a networking event, and I was engaged by who she was. I already told you that I fell in love with the voice, but I started reading the books behind her. And my goal in life is to really have people understand their life work, and I work them up that process. When I saw intuitive living and inspired living, can we take a moment about intuitive living and inspired living, and why those two books? Like, you could have put any books out in front, but you put those right there to draw the eye. Why?
I think if we can live intuitively and can live an inspired life, then we are actualizing ourselves to our highest potential. So I loved those two books so much. And in the intuitive living, we have Dr. John DeMartini contributing a chapter as well, which was really beautiful. Yes.
Congratulations to you. What a win.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. So that was beautiful. I got to interview him, and then we transcribed the work into a chapter. Yeah. So he's got his chapter in there around, and he has such a brilliant mind. So he talks about intuition in a scientific way and how it all works. So that was fascinating to bring that into it. And for me, I wanted every book that I come up with for compilations kind of reflects part of my own journey. And so at that time, I was really wanting to tap into my own intuition in a deeper way. And so I thought, well, that seems to be what the world needs right now. We need to trust ourselves and recognize how can we strengthen our own intuition. So that's how that title came up. And I thought, well, let's bring this in. Let's bring the experts in to share that from lots of different angles and lots of different experiences. And that's why that book was created. The inspired living, in a way, for me, that was the one that came afterwards. It's like that next level. When we tap into our intuition, when we live from that place, we can really create an inspired life for ourselves. And in that book, I have Laurie Ladd, who is an also she's big on YouTube. She's an evolution. She works on the helps in this time of transition to raise the consciousness on the planet. So she was a perfect one to come into that book.
How have these collaborators elevated who you are on this planet?
That's a great question.
Your vessel is growing. Like, I really hear you're growing as a container for others.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. I'm able to hold more and more. And I think it's when I see the transformation that these authors have when moving through the journey, and that feedback of how, we when we do our work, we always say, oh, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing what's natural to me, right? And then you get your clients and they reflect back to you what you've done for them and how you've helped them. And I think that's when we as professionals or as entrepreneurs, when we really embody our message and mission deeper. It's through the external reflections, and often they come from clients. Right now it's coming from you, and all of that helps to grow and helps us grow and step more into who we really are.
You spoke it like a talk from some stage. It doesn't have to be that guy's name stage, but you spoke that powerfully as a talk. I don't know if you have, I know you've spoken, but do you speak as a publisher at writer events, or do you speak as Krystall, who is developing her thought leadership and what she just said right now and sharing that when you're out as a speaker?
I not so much this, but this is what I'm passionate about. I want to talk way more about this then. And the publishing is like we'll talk about that because that's the vehicle.
Right.
But this is what it's about.
Yeah, clear. That's the same space that I'm moving into in 2024 as well. Is really, it's, when Simon Sinek with the book, I've got it right here because I used it the other day, the old, it was like, start with why. And I was like, it's so obvious, but it's only obvious to those who have been participating in the why of their lives. But if you've become so caught up in the minutia and the busyness and all these other things, then being reminded of why all of a sudden occurs as this new bright idea. And as I hear you share right now, you are bringing people back in a more intuitive, conscious way. And I hear, the same way Simon at some level is bringing back being conscious. He doesn't say it that way, but he's bringing back like, hey, I need you to be self-aware. Hey, I need you to be conscious of others. In the professional domain world, we're going to call it EQ and have you work on your emotional quotient. In the global space, we're just going to call it being a good human and being a listener and not trampling on other people's feelings because of your position. But we need to call it EQ. So HR has a way of positioning it when they're going to go buy it and sell it in their organizations. The same listening as you speak right now, Krystall, I just really heard a powerful talk. And that's why I had to pause right there. I'm like, that's a talk. That's someone who's speaking from their leading edge of what they want to bring to the world. You left the world of service provider and you entered the world of let me pull the world forward right now. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're demonstrating your gift right now as well to really bringing things out of people in the courses that they can create and what makes them unique. So, thank you for that too.
Thanks, Krystall. I appreciate that. Sometimes any athlete in the field of action can't see what the athlete's doing until it's reflected back at us, right? Yeah. Thank you
exactly.
For that. Okay. All right. Activate. Let's talk about activate. So you called yourself an activator. Does activator and activate work together? And what is this next opening for Hill House Publishing?
So the activate really is an invitation to have a conversation with me, to seeing how I can activate your inner author. Because did you know, Chris, there are 81% of people out in the population who want to write a book. It's a really high amount, and only 3% of them actually do something about it. And only 1% of those actually gets published. So this is an invitation to leave the 81%, join the 3%, to see what is your next step on that journey into authorship, into thought leadership, and into really sharing your gifts on the next level, and then taking them into a book. And that's, it's a conversation to really exploring goals and dreams and desires of those listening.
I love that. Absolutely. I'm an advocate for your activate process. And I hope that as we continue to move them through, one of the things I'm starting to learn as I work with the authors who want to create their programs is now trying to meet them before the ink is dried on their final pages. Because I'm starting to see, oh, wait, there's a couple things I need in the book that will help me create that signature program, that runway, that marketing space you're going to need to monetize the expertise, to go beyond book sales. And I looked at your list. You have a number of bestsellers that have shown up on the Amazon marketplace. So I know you must have a process for that. Is that true?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, so we have a 100% success rate of all 11 books that we've published in the last 3 years to hit international bestseller. And yeah, there's definitely a process behind that. And the other thing, Chris, I wanted to share is that, currently if people want to say, wow, I'm so inspired, I don't have a whole book in me or don't have the time for a whole book, I'm currently got an opening for joining a collaboration book called Beyond Coincidence. Visionaries unlock the mysteries of synchronicities and success. So that is open right now for enrollments, and we're going to start sometime probably in February with the writing process.
We might need to have a conversation around that one. One of the things that I find about those types of multi-author books, depending on who it is you get the feels, you get the injection of enthusiasm to complete the chapter. And now the calling, the work is, okay, now the gestation process has started. What are you going to do to create the other chapters that come before and after that one, so you really have something to take to the world? That's where I find working with my same thing, the multi-author, all the images on the back of the page, because one author put something into the book, and then I go find all the individuals. I'm like, what'd you do? What'd you do? Where'd you get stuck? How can I help you bring it back to life? So it's really good, Krystall. I'm interested in having that conversation with you there.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Last part, as we hit the hour mark, thank you for spending your Sunday morning with us, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Sunday morning.
This is a big question, maybe not a fair question to finish with. In 2024, if you could wave the magic Harry Potter, Krystall Hille wand and give everybody that's something that you see, like, if I could just make sure people had this before they stepped out to their books, what's the wand? What's the gift of Krystall that she would sprinkle over everybody that got it out to the world?
It's really to know that your story matters. You know, we are moving into times of decentralization where power hierarchies are crumbling and individuals are becoming more important. You know, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. And so we need to start claiming that power that we came with and start activating it. And if there's anything, you know, I work with a lot of healers and coaches, and there is a trauma still. I call it the witch hunt wound, where we were prosecuted for speaking our truth. And so if I could wave a magic wand, I would help everybody to heal that wound so that we can find the courage within ourselves to really claim who we are and the gifts that we're here to bring and the truth that we have to share.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly how great individuals wrap up a wonderful conversation, as they give you their highest vision for who they are for you, their promise, their commitment, and who they're going to be for you in this journey. And Krystall Hille, you've done that extraordinary in a very extraordinary way today. So thank you. And for those of you, like I said, caught it live, caught it replay, caught it anywhere else, there's a link somewhere that will connect you to Krystall. Please reach out to her if you're in that journey. She knows when to reach out to me to say, okay, Chris, they're ready for that next phase. But do the deep work with Krystall, please. And as you see what's possible and what's next, if you're Gabby Bernstein or Tony Robbins or Eckhart, and whatever that stage looks like for you, we'll get you there together. But you got to go in, have a beautiful publisher Sherpa like Krystall to help you get it done. Krystall, is there anything else you want to say before we wave bye and sign off?
Just thank you for an incredible conversation. And I can really see the journey that we can take people on together.
Yeah, awesome. So from Long Beach, California, and what city again in Australia?
The hinterlands of Brisbane in Australia.
The hinterlands of Brisbane, Australia. We wish you a great day. We look forward to working with you. Please reach out to us, and bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.